Howdy y'all, thank you for joining us today for this playthrough of the Scarlet Witch. This is the pre-con deck, straight out of the box. We just done the unboxing, and now we're going to try out the pre-made deck that is already in here. So it's just going to be the starter deck untouched, which I believe is Justice. And then it's going to be against the starter deck, the typical one that if you watch my other playthroughs that I do with all the starter decks is through the starter deck that comes in the base box or the core box, which is the Rhino starter deck with the bomb scare and the standard playthrough or the standard set of events. Let's see, so we start off as Wanda Maximoff in our alter ego form. And if this is your first time to join me, I do try to go through the basics of the game as I am doing stuff to kind of help you to catch on or to be able to follow on. But for the most part, I don't get too involved into the rules other than just let you know kind of how the game plays and what happens. That way you can kind of, if it's something you're interested in, know or want to watch others and be able to understand them. So of course the first turn, both for the hero and the villain, or the first round, or however you want to say it, going through each of them will be slow at first, but then, and I'm going to cut out most stuff that I do. So like I said, this is the 40 cards to start with. There are 4 ways that this can start. It can be aggression, which is kind of all about aggro and stuff. It can be leadership, which is about bringing out allies and having them help you out by attacking or defending for you or thwarting. It can be protection, which is a defensive end, but also lets you retaliate and do damage as you are defending, and also letting you heal and whatnot. And then there is justice, which is to thwart the scheme, and that will make more sense as you see the game play through. So we start out the game in alter ego form, and we start out with 10 hit points, which I already set myself at, and a max hand size of 6. So we start out the game and we get to look at our hand immediately. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And don't worry, I'm still doing some more setup. I'm just drawing the cards. Now normally what you would do is you would choose if you want to discard any of these cards and then draw back up to your 6, and that would be your starting hand. Since this is the first time I'm playing the deck and haven't really looked through it too harshly to figure out how you're supposed to do it, I'm just going to keep my initial starting hand of 6. So we're going against the Rhino deck, and in the Rhino deck, like I said, it's got the bomb scare cards mixed in, it has the Rhino cards, and then the standard set of cards, which are of 7 of them. And I've already got the obligations, which are Slipping Sanity. Every hero has an obligation that normally has to be shuffled into the deck. In this case, Scarlet Witch actually is the first one I've seen, and I'm pretty sure I have them all. But Scarlet Witch is the first one I've seen that has 2 obligations. She has some other cards, which are her Nemesis cards, which are off to the side here, and we'll see if they come into play. But yeah, so I'm just going to be shuffling this together. So the point of the game is I have 10 hit points, and Rhino here is trying to break into, and it'll tell you here on the scheme thing, normally it's on the back and it's got the story, but he's basically trying to break into the shield facility to steal some vibranium, and we have to try to stop him from doing that. Our job, in order to win and to stop him from doing that, is to KO him twice. Once for his phase 1 and once for his second one. So he starts out, he's got 14 hit points, and we have to knock him out on the 14. Once we knock him out on the 14, we go to his second form, which, if I remember right, is 15 hit points. I am getting kind of used to playing against this starter, but it's just the way I do it each time. But we knock him out 14, then his 15, and we win. We lose if he can knock us out. Like I said, we have 10 hit points, so if he can knock us out, we lose. Or if he pulls off his scheme. His main scheme needs 7 threat on it, and each turn he's going to be adding some in some form or fashion. So, well, he always adds whatever this says here, and then there's a chance he adds more. And we'll get to that whenever we go through his phase. But other than that, we just go back and forth until one of those conditions is met. Either he is knocked out, or he knocked me out, or pulled off his scheme. So right off the bat, we get to start out as the first player. I'm not going to mess with the first player marker, just because I'm the only player, so I'm always going to be the first player. But the first thing that we get to do on our turn is we basically start doing actions. One of the actions you could do for your turn is you can flip from alter ego to your hero form, or from your hero to alter ego form. And you could do this once per during the hero phase. So I'm going to use that action to switch to the Scarlet Witch form, so that I am in hero form. Now the next thing is, if you want to, you can play cards from your hand. And the way this works is, if you want to play a card, this is the cost that you have to pay in the card. And the resources that you will use to pay that cost is at the bottom of the card. So basically, if I wanted to play this card, I would just have to discard one resource. So basically discard one of these cards, and by discarding the card, it gives you that resource. So in the case of this one, where I want to play Magic Shield, I have to pay 1. I will discard this card, which has 1 resource there, to pay the 1, and then now this card goes into play. This card is an upgrade. What an upgrade means is it's something that goes on an ally or a hero, and it gives that ally or hero basically an ability. So, or an upgrade. So, the upgrade I'm putting on this Magic Shield is a Hero Interrupt, which means if I am in hero form, as an interrupt, when a friendly character would take any amount of damage, I could discard this Magic Shield to prevent 3 of that damage. So that'll stop me from taking some damage, which, it's Rhino, so odds are I'm taking some damage. The next card I want to play is this Molecular Decay, so I need 3. I will discard these 3. And in the case of like that one, you can notice some cards do have multiple, so those are pretty cool about that. And now I get to play Molecular Decay. It is an event, so it is a one-time play. It is a hero action, so I had to be in hero form, which I am in. And it says, I get to do an attack, deal 5 damage to an enemy, and then discard the top 2 cards of the encounter deck. For each boost icon discarded this way, deal 1 additional damage to that enemy. So I'm going to do 5 damage to Rhino. Putting him to 9. And then now we discard the top 2 cards of the encounter deck, and for each boost icon discarded this way, I deal an additional damage to that enemy. Alright, so what we're doing is we flip over the top card, and what we're looking at is this bottom here. Those are boost icons. So we got 1, 2 there. And then 0. I am going to use Scarlet Witch's Interrupt abilities, which says when boost icons on an encounter card would be counted, discard the top card of the encounter deck and count the number of boost icons on that card instead. So we have the 2 from the original one, but we're going to use it on this one, so instead we are getting the boost one from this one, which is another 0. So with her ability, what it's basically going to... Well, let me do this 2 damage and then we'll get into that. That way I don't forget to do the 2 damage. But what it does is she's going to cycle through this deck real fast. And it's actually kind of bad if this deck runs out, because what it does, it speeds up how fast he gets to pull off his scheme every time you go through this deck. So while her cards are chaotic and let her do things, cycling through that deck also is going to make it more dangerous. So it's kind of an interesting new way of the aggression and how it works. But Molecular Decay is now done. One of the other actions you can do for your turn is basically called a basic action. There are 3 actions that you can basically do. Really 4. No, I'll talk about that one. All right, so you can exhaust the character to pull off one of these things. So if I exhaust them to thwart, then I get to thwart the scheme and get rid of threat off of the main scheme that he's trying to pull off equal to that number. In the same regards here, if I exhaust this character and attack, I get to do that much damage to a villain or bad guy that I basically decide to attack. If I am being attacked, I can choose to exhaust the character to defend, and this reduces the damage from the attack by this number. And just to go ahead and show, there's also on the other side a recovery, usually on your alter ego, and if you're on the alter ego form, you can exhaust them to recover that many hit points back, so basically heal a little bit. So in this case, I'm going to exhaust Scarlet Witch, and since there is no threat on the scheme, I'm going to go ahead and attack Rhino for 1 damage. I basically have done all the actions that I'm able to do. I still have 1 card in hand, but it's something I want to hold for a future turn. So at this point, we move to the end step. And what we do at the end step is we get to choose to discard down as many cards as we want to. I'm going to keep this card so that I have 1 card in hand. And now we draw up to whatever our current hand size is. In this case, my current hand size is 5. So I will draw 4 new cards into hand. So I draw 1, 2, 3, 4. Add those to my hand. And then the last thing I do for the hero phase is unexhaust all my cards. Then we move to the villain phase. The first step in the villain phase is we look to see how much threat is going to get added to the scheme. In this case, it says 1 per number of players, so 1, and I am solo, so 1 threat will be added to the scheme. And if this gets to 7 threat, he wins the game because he pulls off his main scheme. Next, we activate the villain for their action, and what they do depends on what form your character is in. If my character is in alter ego form, then the villain will scheme and add more threat to the scheme. If the character is in hero form, then the villain will attack them, and that's when they would have to choose if they want to defend and whatnot. So in this case, I am in hero form, so Rhino is going to attack me. So now is when I would choose if I want to exhaust her to defend to stop damage from happening to me. In this case, since I have the magic shield, I am not going to defend. So he is going to attack, so he is going to do 2 damage, and then depending on what he does, he's going to flip over this top card and add that boost icons to it. So in this case, he's doing 2 plus 1, and he's doing 3 damage. I could activate Scarlet Witch's ability again and get the next card and hope for a 0, but 2 and 1, that's 3 damage. I will take it because now I'm going to do the Hero Interrupt, which says that when a friendly character would take any amount of damage, discard Magic Shield and prevent 3 of that damage. So 3 minus 3, I take 0 damage. The next part of the villain phase is we deal each person 1 encounter card off the top of the encounter deck. And once each person is dealt 1, in this case I'm just going to keep it up here because I'm the only person playing. Once everyone is dealt their encounter cards, we activate them and we have to do what the card says. So in this case, false alarm happens. Says when revealed, you are confused. If you are already confused, this card gains Surge. And what Surge is, I'm not confused, so I am going to gain confused, which is going to put this on me. And what it does is the next time my character would go to thwart the scheme and get rid of some of that threat off the scheme, I instead would just lose this, and she would just stop being confused. She does nothing and other than just stops being confused. Now, if I would have already been confused, what Surge is Surge means, oh, you're already confused, discard this card and draw the next card. So it basically makes to where something happens. After all the encounter stuff is done, the last thing you would do is move the first player token over to the next person, and they are now the first player. In this case, I am the only one that is the first player, so we just go back and forth and start it all over again. So I'm going to do Spiritual Meditation is a 0. I can play only if I am a mystic, which I am an Avenger mystic right now. So, as an action, I draw 2 cards and choose and discard 1 card from my hand. So I'm going to draw 1, 2 cards. I'm going to choose to discard this card. The next thing I'm going to do is choose to try to thwart the scheme. So I will exhaust her, but because I'm confused, it does nothing and just gets rid of the confusion. Next, I want to try to bring out this Scarlet Witch's Crest, so it costs 2. Discarding these 2 cards. And I have now the upgrade Scarlet Witch's Crest, which is an interrupt that lets me add or subtract 1 on the boost cards by exhausting this. Seems pretty good since I've seen cards that let me do some cool things either way. We go to the end of the turn. I'm going to keep 2 cards, so I draw 3. 1, 2, 3. Putting me back to 5. We unexhaust our character, or all of our cards, and we move to the bad guy's turn. We add 1 threat to the scheme. I am still in hero form, so he's going to choose to attack. I'm going to choose to defend, so I exhaust her. I'm going to reduce the damage by 2. So he does 2 plus 1. He will do 3 damage. Minus 2 means I take 1. We deal ourselves an encounter card, and now we encounter the encounter card. I'm tough. When revealed, give Rhino a tough status card. If he already has one, then this gains Surge. So Rhino gains tough. What tough does is it makes it to where the next damage that would be dealt to him instead is nulled to 0, and then this goes away. So it makes it where I want to kind of hit him for some little dinky damage so that the next damage I do is maximized. Alright, we go back to... Oh, you know what? Yeah, look at me. Taking things back. When that boosted for an additional 1 damage, making his damage 3 since I was going to reduce it, I'm actually going to tap, or exhaust, sorry. I will use tap from time to time. I played a lot of Magic. I'm going to exhaust Scarlet Witch's Crest to reduce that boost by 1, making it 0 so that I take no damage. Alright, I'm going to bring out Wiccan, which costs 2. He is a Justice card. Play this card, which says basically this is a wild symbol. It means it can be used for anything if it's asking, but only as anything whenever it's being spent. When it's not being spent, then it's considered the wild symbol. But anyways, with paying that symbol to a Justice card, it counts as 2, so I only have to discard that one to bring out Wiccan. And the way the allies work, Wiccan is an ally, and the way allies work is they start out and they have a number of hit points equal there, which is 3. I kind of do this backwards because it's just easier for me to remember, but 3. And then when they do their thwart or attack just like I do, when I do my action, they take consequential damage depending on how many stars are there and what they did. They do not have a defense because if they attack, if you decide to have them defend for you when attacked, then they just take all the damage. I'm going to have Wiccan go ahead and exhaust to thwart the scheme. Since he has a 1 thwart, it means he removes 1 threat from the scheme. And then in response, after Wiccan thwarts, I discard the top card of the encounter deck, and for each boost icon discarded this way, I deal 1 damage to an enemy. So we're going to discard this. It's got 0 boost. I'm going to use Scarlet Witch's Interrupt, which says when boost icons on an encounter card would be counted, discard the top card of the encounter deck and count those instead, basically. So we're going to take this one, which is going to do an additional 3 damage to Rhino. So yeah, cycled through, but I hit a big one. Nice. And then the last thing that happens is Wiccan takes 1 consequential damage. Oh, messed that up. Rhino actually does not take the damage because he has tough. Instead, it just gets rid of the tough. I want to bring out this support, Agatha Harkness. I need to pay 1. I will pay the 1. She is support, but she is support that can only be action activated during my alter ego form. I'm going to go ahead and flip to my alter ego form. And then I will exhaust Agatha Harkness, which says, look at the top 3 cards of my deck, add 1 of those to my hand, and place the rest in the bottom of the deck in any order. So 1, 2, 3. I get to put 1 of these in my hand. I'm going to put the Power of Justice into my hand and put these other 2 back onto the bottom of my deck in any order. We'll put Hex Bolt on top of Spiritual Meditation. Alright, we go to my end step. I'm going to keep both these cards. So I draw up to my hand size of 6, so I draw 4 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. Put me at 6. We unexhaust. We add a threat to the scheme. I am in alter ego form, so in this case, Rhino is going to scheme. So 1. We will activate. Oh, I'm not in her form, so that was a bad time for that one to come up. Because that's going to mean it's going to add 4 threat to the scheme. I will tap or exhaust Scarlet Witch's Crest to at least reduce that by 1, adding only 3 threat to the scheme. Now we deal out the encounter card. We activate it, and it is breaking and taken. What this is a side scheme. So first off, right off the bat, we add that much threat to it, and then we do the when revealed, place an additional 1 threat here per number of players. So it's going to add 3 threat. And what a side scheme is it's basically something that makes it more difficult. So now he is doing breaking and taking. He's basically just breaking and stealing stuff. And it's going to add these little symbols here. In the case of this symbol, it means when I am dealt those encounter cards, I would have to be dealt an additional 1. So I want to get rid of this before the next encounter. Alright, we go back to the beginning of my turn. I'm going to exhaust Agatha Harkness to do it once again. I look at the top 3 cards of my deck. And then put 1 in my hand, the other 2 on the bottom of my deck. I am going to take speed to add to my hand. Put these on the bottom of the deck in this order. I am next going to activate Wanda Maximoff's superpowered signalings action, which is discard 2 cards from my hand to draw 2 cards. I'm going to discard these 2 cards from hand to draw 2 cards. 2. Going to use my other action to flip to hero form, or another action to flip to hero form. I'm going to play multitasking. It costs 1, so I'll use this 1. So hero action, thwart, remove 2 threat from a scheme, and if you paid for this card using, I believe it's called mental resource. I'm still learning those. I'm pretty sure it's mental resource. Remove 2 threat from a different scheme. So the one I did play did have that mental resource. So that means I get to remove 2 threat from one scheme and 2 threat from a different scheme. So remove 2 from the breaking and taken. And then we get to remove 2 from the break-in. I don't know why I missed to remove those, but it's fine. Alright, I'm going to play Chaos Magic. It is a 0 cost event. And what it does is I play a card from my hand, ignoring its resource cost, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck equal to that card's printed resource cost. So this would be really bad if that deck was low. But I'm going to play Molecular Decay. So I have to Instead of paying a resource cost, I basically discard 3 cards from the encounter deck. 1, 2. I guess I can just show you the cards so that you can see them. So that was number 2. That was number 1. And number 3. Ooh, I'm glad that one went bye-bye. So this card is the one I probably hate the most in this game. It basically makes your nemesis come out and shuffles in their bad guy stuff and brings out their side scheme and all that stuff. That is all I can think. Alright, so I paid for the molecular decay now, so we do the hero action of attack. We deal 5 damage to an enemy and discard the top 2 cards of the encounter deck. For each boost icon discarded this way, deal 1 additional damage to that enemy. So we're going to do 5 damage, taking Rhino to 1. And then we discard the top 2, doing additional boost damage. So we got the 1, 2, 3, doing 3 additional damage, which is more than enough to take him out. So he is KO'd. He goes to his second form, and this is the reason I wanted to do it before I got rid of this breaking and taking, because his second form, first thing it does is puts him back to 15 hit points, so he's got to do 15 damage to him, and we win. But what he does is, when he's revealed, you search the encounter deck and discard pile for the breaking and taking side scheme and reveal it. It's right here. So I wanted to pull that off so that I wouldn't have to do it again. So yeah, we search it, we know it's not going to be there. It tells us to shuffle the deck. I'll give it a few shuffles. There we go. Now we will have Wiccan Exhaust to thwart the breaking and taken. So he gets rid of the last threat off the breaking and taken. And in his response, after he thwarts, discard the top card of the encounter deck and deal damage for each boost shown this way. So he does 1 damage to someone, so he'll do 1 damage to Rhino. And then he takes his consequential damage. Next, I will have Scarlet Witch exhaust and do 1 damage to Rhino. We're going to move to my end step. I am going to choose to discard that card. I can stand to take a little bit of damage, I think, which leaves 2 cards in my hand still. So we draw to my hand size of 5, so I draw 3 cards. 1, 2, another molecular decay. 3. We unexhaust all my stuff. We add a threat to the scheme. I am in hero form, so he will attack. I will choose to defend, so I will exhaust Scarlet Witch. He does 3, 4, 5. I will exhaust Scarlet Witch's crest to reduce that boost by 1, making it only 4, minus the 2 defense. Should have taken all the damage now that I think of it, but so I'll only take 2 damage. Oh, put myself at 2, instead I'd be at 8. We deal our encounter card. We deal with our encounter card, which is Rhino heals 4 damage. If no damage was healed this way, this guard gains surge. He will heal. He will just heal up to his 15. And we go back to the beginning of my turn. I'm going to bring speed out. I need 4. I have 1, 2, and then it's another Power of Justice, and speed is a Justice card, so there's the 4 to bring out speed. I will exhaust speed to thwart the main scheme for 2. As a response, it says after speed thwarts, ready him. So I ready him. He still will take the consequential damage for thwarting though. I will exhaust Wiccan to thwart the main scheme, which takes out another threat. And then it says reveal the top card. He does that much additional damage. I'm going to go ahead and use Scarlet Witch's ability to discard that and reveal the next one. So he still does 1 damage to Rhino. And then Consequential KOs him. And I will exhaust speed to attack Rhino for another damage. I will go to the end step. I'm going to keep this 1 card in hand. We draw up to our hand size of 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We unexhaust. We add a threat to the scheme. I'm going to choose to take the damage. So he attacks for 5. I will exhaust Scarlet Witch's Crest to make that 4. I take 4 damage. We deal an encounter card. It is False Alarm. You are confused. If you are already confused, this card gains Surge. Kind of messed up my turn. Here's the Confuse. Like I said, that makes it where if I try to thwart with her instead, she does nothing. Or until I try to thwart with her and do nothing, she is confused. We go to the beginning of my turn. I'm going to do Molecular Decay. I need to pay 3. Pay 3. So we deal 5 damage. And then reveal 2 cards from the encounter, or discard 2 cards from the encounter deck. And then for each boost icon discard this way, deal an additional damage. So we'll deal 5 damage. Putting him at 8. And then 1, 2, 3 more damage. Putting him at 5. I'll have speed. Attack Rhino. Dealing 1. And then takes his consequential damage. I will have Scarlet Witch attack Rhino. Dealing 1. So I can attack him. It's only if I went to thwart that I couldn't have because I was confused. I'm going to keep 1 card in hand. Draw up to my 5. So 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's right. These are the cards I know what they are because I put them there. We unexhaust. Oh, so I just threw that off. We add 1 threat to the scheme. Oh, I just made a mess. I should have just thrown the 1 on there. Alright. He is going to attack me. I am going to defend with speed. So 3, 4, 5. Can reduce the damage, but doesn't matter. He does 5 damage to speed, knocking him out. We deal myself an encounter card. We play the encounter card. Oh my goodness. Basically adds tough to him. So now I gotta damage him again. We go back to the beginning of my turn. I am going to attack with Scarlet Witch, which will get rid of the toughness, or tough. I'm going to play Spiritual Meditation. I have my Mystic, so as an action I draw 2 cards and choose and discard 1 from my hand. So draw 1, 2. I will discard this one from hand. I'm going to try to bring out Quicksilver, or I am going to bring out Quicksilver. There's the 4. Brings out Quicksilver. He's going to choose to attack Rhino, doing 2 damage. He takes the 1 consequential damage. As an action, I can ready Quicksilver, limit once per phase, and then I will exhaust him to knock out Rhino. So, interesting. Definitely cycles through this. I'm amazed at how they keep finding different ways to make the decks feel different. I like that you can cycle through that, but I can definitely tell that if I was playing with someone who was playing this deck and they're cycling through that thing quickly, because we had at least 5 bad guy turns, maybe 4, so this deck would have ran out because there would have been extra encounter cards being dealt, but of course, I don't know. Yeah, so no, it's hard to go backwards and tell. Well, of course, his card would have been in there, but yeah. But yeah, so that was cool. I think I do like it as a Justice, just because you are going to be throwing... You're going to be going through this, which means you're going to be adding more of these tokens that will basically make it to where more threat is being added to the scheme, so you need to have ways to knock it out and get rid of that. But yeah, it was cool. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I think it's a little easier to play her as solo, but we shall see. Alright, well cool. That was a quick little knockout. I'll go back, make sure I didn't make any mistakes. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.